And we are recording now, guys.
Yay.
Crazy. Whoa.
We did it.
Yeah.
That's us.
Why am
welcome
I huge
to Power
and you guys are
Pals.
so small?
I don't know. On gallery view, it looks normal to me.
Oh, is there a cool view? Because like mine just keeps switching back and forth between whoever.
Yeah, over to the side, you should be able to switch it to gallery view.
Hold on. I have a bottom, not a side. Let me see.
Oh, yes.
I put it where all four of us are on screen, and I'm just enormous. Just humongous.
Oh, hold on a second. All four of us, Mike?
Yeah, what?
Well, all four screen areas are accessible. I know we don't have a fourth person.
I love it. I can't figure out the background. I followed a whole tutorial on how to set like a cool background, and I can't. However, I have to. Okay, you guys, this room, my parents have a place up in Big Bear, and there's this bizarre room over the garage that they call the GIMP room because it literally. It has this door. I don't know if you can see it over there.
Oh, shit.
There's like a mail slot in it that's like for like passing food through. And like when they first got this place, the room was like all dark and sad and had this big heavy duty lock on the outside of that door. So this is known as the GIMP. Yeah, and it's like, look at that. That looks like some Blair Witch shit or something.
Yeah. I like to think that slot used to say genitals only.
Exactly.
That's how you get all your meals.
Right? You stick the dick through and we'll put the food through on the other end.
Yeah.
Welcome to Power Pals, everybody. Quarantine edition. If you're noticing the audio is a little weird, it's because everyone is on a different weird thing that connects to a shitty Chinese software program.
That's reaping the benefits of the plague.
I thought this whole thing has been like Zoom's master plan because I had never even heard of Zoom before this shit. Now everyone's like, oh,
I'm not either. It is better than Skype for whatever reason. The quality comes out better than Skype does, which is telling considering Microsoft is on that one. What have you guys been up to? It's been I still need to get your Christmas presents to you guys.
Same to you. Yeah. I feel like I would have had better luck walking them to you guys.
Yeah, it's crazy. I hope we don't get each other anything else cool because there'll be something else that will prevent ever meeting a person again.
The cycle starts over.
So how are you guys doing with all this shit?
I realized because of this how much of a hermit I actually am. I had no idea how much time I spend at home anyway, that this was not a major upheaval for me.
Yeah, I don't want to be cliche, but as like, the whole like, oh, introverts are like, yeah, so what, but it is, there's this level of like, I mean, I do a lot of my, don't try not to eat out a lot, take stuff home, stay at home. And like when I get like super down and depressed, I don't get haircuts for like months at a time, like months, maybe a year. Yeah. I'll just be like, whatever, I don't care. So the fact that these people are flipping the fuck out because they don't look cute while they're locked away from everybody is like, take a moment, learn what your real hair color is. Like it could be exciting,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I really, it's not that much different than what I was doing before, minus seeing movies in movie theaters, which I didn't realize how much I loved that until it was gone completely. If they ever get to a vaccine or whatever, I'll be so happy to see a movie proper in a movie theater again.
Yeah, man.
Well,
it's crazy.
Oh, I think it's weird too that like while everything is shut down, movie theaters are like making announcements how like, oh, in the future we're not going to show any of this person's this studio stuff because they're releasing stuff on demand. And I'm like, what's even the like let's just try to get through this shit like calmly without being like, when this is over, we're not friends anymore.
We have a bunch of.
Yeah.
I'm gonna settle some scores. When this is over.
Exactly.
I
Dude.
kind of hope the first week is just like the purge. Everyone just runs around settling old scores from the fucking lockdown.
Yeah, but that's going to be the shittiest score settling because it'll be like, you remember that tweet? You remember that tweet that you did? When I was talking about how I started working out and you were like, who gives a shit? And I was like, well, who gives a shit now, bitch? And then you pull out a giant workout mace and you're like,
Right. If it actually becomes Fortnite for a couple days, I'll be stoked. You know, just people hitting each other with pickaxes and shit.
Yeah, I mean, it'll never be what you want. I think that's the thing that I've learned about America is it'll never be what I want it to be.
That ought to be on the Statue of Liberty. Welcome to America. It will never be what you want.
It'll always be me falling asleep going, oh God, if it was just a little bit different, everything would be fine.
It makes you feel responsible for the fact that you're not succeeding. You know, like it could happen. I'm just not making it happen.
Yeah, and now we've all had time to stew on someone else to blame for it.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I think if people did do the score settling thing, it would be sad as fuck because no one. It's like if you didn't have the wherewithal to succeed, you don't have the wherewithal it takes for revenge, for like a really good, like solid Machiavellian revenge sort of thing to happen.
No, and there's no
time and effort. Oh yeah, okay, I guess.
There's no like cheating going on either. Like it's like, what are you gonna get? It's like, my wife sent you a picture of her pussy, and now I'm mad at you. Like, who fucking cares? Who gives a shit, man?
That's sad if that's the only cheating going on.
That is what is happening. Like
Are
crazy.
People really?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's all in the news.
I guess, no one's risking their life for pussy, but
no.
I don't know. I think people totally are. I think people totally are, and they're using it as like I'm going to the grocery store and just like getting it in on the side as well. I
think that's how it should be. That's what should be happening.
It should be the American way.
People should be kind of like I was telling Andrew. I got a Coke that had a dent in it, and so when I open it, every time I drink it, there's a danger that I'm going to cut my lips off. And I was like, if I was just a little bit more pervy, this would be the best Coke of all time, you know? I really did myself.
Yeah, but then Mike said that the overlap between people who like to be choked during sex and cutting their lips was really strong, and I said it wasn't. I said that's not.
I really think it is. I think
I don't agree with you. I think there is overlap. I don't think it is 100% overlap. I want to be choked. 100%. Please cut off my lips.
It's like,
I don't think
you're going to get your lips totally cut off by a Coke can. They're going to be partially cut off. Why am my lens flaring so bad?
I know. Wow, what happened to you? You went like transparent for a moment.
Like
it looked
really
like
it's like mood lighting.
It looks like it's being eaten.
You lost your illustration in your background. I don't know if you did that on purpose.
Yeah, I did it so I could show you guys my cool workout mace in a minute. Which I got because you can't go to a gym right now. You can't do any of that kind of shit. So I wanted to show you guys this because it's nerdy. And guys, if you're just tuning in, what is this podcast about, Avery?
What is it about? Well, we like to talk about gimps and maces and all that kind of stuff. All right. So are you nerdy? And are you also a little bit dirty? Do you like to be a bit flirty about it? This is the podcast for you.
Yes.
Are you squirty?
Yeah.
Does it hurty?
Yes, it hurties a little. You go all hurdy-gurdy.
The good hurdy always makes a squirty. When you're nerdy, dirty, and flirty, you need the good hurdy. Also,
I'll drink to that.
I'll drink to that, and then you're like, your lips fall off, and a huge load just shoots up on the screen.
You overestimate me on both counts, sir.
Avery, I want to tell you that you have had your hand raised during this meeting the entire time.
Oh, I was testing. I thought it was fun. I don't know. Like, look at all this stuff. And like, this is so cute. How does that work? I don't know what it looks like.
Oh man, I want to show you guys this thing because I
love
it.
this image of little digital me just sitting there like, hello, hello.
Hello.
Yes. I have a question. How much do you come when you cut your lips off?
All of it. any room in my balls that is not taken up by piss.
Dude, look at this thing.
Is totally empty.
Well,
will you guys describe this for the audio?
That's home defense too. I mean, if someone breaks in, the last thing they would expect is like a mace, you know?
Why do you have it?
I work out with it. It's a 25-pound mace. It's way heavier than I thought it would be.
Is it like really 25 neoprene or something?
No, it's iron and it's covered with black paint.
Oh,
it's actually iron?
Yeah, it's an iron mace.
Crazy.
You could brain someone with that real good.
Yeah, seriously, that's a weapon.
Yeah, it is a mace.
Yeah, it's a mace.
Excellent workout weapon you've chosen.
Dude, it's the dopest workout because I put on the Conan the Barbarian soundtrack, and then you just do moves that you would do with a huge axe or a sword, right?
Yeah.
But it's so unwieldy to have this amount of metal at the top of it that you have to control it, and it gives you, dude, it took me 30 minutes to do their 7.5-minute beginner workout.
Wow.
And my whatever it's called, heartbeat, I guess would be the word.
Heart set thing, you know?
Whatever that thing is.
What is it? You guys won't fucking know. You won't know this answer to this fitness question. There's no way to do
the pulse?
I don't know it.
I think it's called the pulse.
Your beats per minute. So
right.
Oh, you bip them, yeah. The bipping.
Heart rate is what I was looking for. So I got to.
You plebs would never know. You'd never know that.
No one would ever understand.
I'm making fun of us as a group. There's like, I'm trying to figure out the term for my heart beating, which I should know.
When the heart moves, what do they call that?
The amount my heart moves over time. What would that be? It's funny to me that there's no way the three of us can piece it together. Like it's like asking train car hobos, like where they went, like what did they study in their postgraduate degree? You know,
well,
like it's like.
The stupid thing is that like we're all individually intelligent. It's not like we don't have like knowledge of biology, but we still have like so little interaction with that. Like I don't know what.
Yeah.
What do you call that? I'm not
sure. It's just not part of my world.
Right.
No, it's not. It's not part of my world either. So that's what was funny to me about it was the idea of us coming up with trying to figure out the most basic fitness vocabulary and being stumped on.
Yeah, I was stuck on pulse. I was like, does he mean pulse? He means our pulse.
Does he mean pulse? Yeah. Andrew, do you mean blood? Do you mean blood? Is there a blood? I think doctors call it heart blood fastness. Whatever your heart blood fastness is.
I heard you can shoot heart blood all the way to the moon. If someone stabs you just the right way.
I heard that if you stretch your heart blood from here to the moon, you can eat whatever you want on Saturday. All this half-remembered Mr. Goodbody, Mumbo Jumbo. Did you have Mr. Goodbody, Mike?
Oh yeah, I remember. He was the pervert that wore the bodysuit.
Yeah,
I don't know what this is.
What?
Mr. Goodbody was a man. He was like a hippie in the 70s.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Dressed in a suit that was painted as though all of his skin was gone. And so just organs and stuff. But his head was like Bob Ross without a beard.
Yeah.
And he would tell you about all of the functions of your body. And he was a real creep.
You know, I feel like a lot of that educational or like super friendly kids like 70s stuff was just way too, it's too ambiguous. Like it makes you feel uncomfortable. Like
Well,
stuff,
yeah,
you know?
his name was Slim Goodbody, and he would dance around in a skin tight jumpsuit that had his organs painted on it. And it was like, you know, when you go to the ballet and you're like, God damn it, it's just an ocean of nutsacks. You know, like every dude. And now I heard that they stuff those guys inflate their nuts. Those are like air bladders for some of those dudes in ballet. I heard that. And I was like, well, why couldn't they just tone it down? It's not like chicks are like, oh man, look at those huge nuts. That's what I want. I want big, nasty, floppy, abnormally sized ballet nuts. That's what I want.
I don't know that women were the entire market.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
For what they were doing.
Maybe not. But what my mom would say is, Baryshnikov was a ballet dancer, and he did very well with the ladies. That's what she would tell me every time a kid made fun of me at school for being in ballet.
Shit.
Baryshnikov was one of the big love interests on Sex and the City, but I always found him horribly uncompelling. Like you're watching this, like I'm not buying it. No.
I liked it because he never gave Carrie a fucking inch on her bratty shit. He said no to every single thing that she asked him to do.
Yeah, and then he backhanded her. It was a moment where I was like, okay, you know what? Yeah, all right.
Like she'd be like, I just thought maybe we could have kids one day. And he's like, I already have kids. And then she's like, but you don't want more? He's like, what can I say? I like my life the way I like my life. And then just leaves the room.
Yeah, you know? Sitting there like, oh boy, oh dear.
What did he backhand her for?
What was that?
What did he backhand her for?
Oh, she wouldn't let him play Fortnite, and he got real mad.
I don't remember the exact incident, but I know that like they were in Paris together, and it was one of those things where she was kind of sad puppy dogging around and like followed him to Paris and like moved to Paris to be with him. And it was something where I think she was throwing a fit because they were supposed to do something together that night, and he kind of stood her up. And when he got back home to their apartment, she was being dramatic about it and upset. Look, I'm not saying it's okay to hit a woman, but in the scheme of that TV show,
that woman. Right there.
That woman, you hit that woman. In the scheme of that TV show, I think it was a little moment of just the collective audience, like, we've earned this, you know?
Yeah.
Like, we get one hit on Carrie this whole show.
Yeah.
I like to think the producers wrote that in.
I saw the first one. I don't think I saw the second one. Yeah, I know. I wonder if they all sat around and went like, so hold on. Consensus says we don't like her anymore, right? Okay. All right, cool. We're doing this.
Let's just have this Russian ballet guy beat the shit out of her for a whole season.
I picture like a grip going over to Baryshnikov going, now the trick is aim way past her head. We really wanted to connect. We're only going to get one shot at this.
Yeah.
Put your whole body into it.
Hit from the shoulder, you know.
Yeah. You kind of want to rise up with your body. And...
The director's like, I need you to slap the horse right out of her face. I just need to fucking ruin the front of her mouth. That's what I need you
to do. Ruin the front of her mouth.
We're looking for a blood spray across the leg.
Yeah, like you've seen Rocky where there's the slow motion punches that happen. Yeah. It's blood across the screen, that sort of thing.
He's like, have you seen our insurance policy? Miles long. No matter what you do to this woman, you're going to be fine. Dude, so in the movie, how disappointed were you when they were like, oh, they show Wang in this movie, and then it is the shadow of an uncircumcised limp penis outside being showered?
What movie are you guys talking about?
Sex and the City.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it really embarrasses me how it is, like how weirdly prudish we are about it. You know what, a show I got to give credit for going all in on the Wang is Spartacus. Was like they had full on
Yeah.
the gladiators are standing like having like a little petty bitch fight over who's the favorite in the gladiator locker room, like no underwear, and it's just they're standing there full like ready to go, posturing with their little dicks hanging around, and there's something about it that is just so well so that I'm like, yes, that's how you do it. You don't do it in this weird like, oh, ooh, that was titillating. Like, just
here's the thing. We talked about this when I think we first started doing Power Pals. We talked about this whole scene because these dudes here, I felt bad for these guys because they're huge bodybuilders. I bet you their penises are normal, but on their massive bodies, it just looks terrible. This is why I recommend that no fat guy take a dick pic full body. Never take a full body dick pic, you know? Because then you're going to have to literally be like, it's a fucking optical illusion. I swear to God.
And there's nothing worse than a naked fat guy screaming at you about optical illusions.
So just get your face near it. Jesus Christ, it's normal. It's normal.
It's normal. Nothing about that scenario is normal.
That is a very normal situation to have a fat guy screaming at you. I swear to God. I swear to God, look at me push my pelvic fat back. Look how much there is.
Look how much there is. Look at the value you're getting.
we call this move the secret savings.
There are at least 5.5 inches of rock hard dick meat.
But wait, there's more. The secret shame that all fat guys are raised with has made us incredibly good at eating pussy, which we will also bring to the table. So you imagine having to talk your way through that? It fucking
You know what's
sucks.
funny is I think that's the same thing with fat girls. The whole like fat girls being good at blowjobs thing is because.
Oh, I thought you were saying that they have to push their pelvic weight down to show their vaginas.
Yeah,
I
they're like, look, my clit is when I do this.
I'm not saying that. But it's so funny that you say that I never put the. I always think that like the joke gets put together that because it's like they're fat girls and it's eating or whatever. But you're right. It's the like, I'm going to prove myself. Like, you know, like,
I think
I'm good at this.
Yeah,
I think it's probably a combination of both. I mean, there's probably some level of oral fixation in every person of a certain size, I would say, where you're
People of a certain size.
pretty fine. You're pretty fine doing whatever with your mouth. Yeah,
if you're not good at oral sex and you're tipping anywhere over 2 bills,
what
the fuck have you been doing?
Could you imagine, Mike? Could you imagine a fat guy who can't eat pussy? What does he do? What is he doing?
Yeah.
What is he doing, man?
Awful. Kill yourself. Just kill yourself if you're fat and you can't eat pussy.
That's got to be the dumbest move to open with if you're a fat guy. Also, I don't eat pussy.
Also,
Yeah.
let's just get this out of the way.
I'm going to sweeten the deal here and let you know that I don't eat pussy.
Don't eat pussy. We're going to go separate checks. Let you know that from the start. Yeah, that guy sucks. That guy sucks. And there's probably a million of them in Chicago. If they live anywhere, it's in Chicago. Guys who are 300 plus who don't eat pussy and also think they're cool. Like, that's a definite Chicago vibe. That's
Chicago is like weirdly like it's like the trashiest cultural center in America. You know?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, where you can't discount some of the value of Chicago, but then every experience you have with like the underbelly of it is like,
yeah. And the food is all basically delicious garbage.
Yep. Dude, the food in Chicago is awesome. I mean, it really is amazing.
But I
don't know how they do it. You're right.
It's delicious garbage.
Mike,
Yeah,
people
there's no like,
die.
culinary expertise.
People die every year at Taste of Chicago, where the only thing that it is that it is a fair where there are no rides. The ride is food from all the restaurants in Chicago, and people die there every year.
That should be on a banner. The ride is food.
The ride is food. You might die here. There you go.
Buy the ticket, take the ride. The ride is food.
The ride is food. Oh man, I'm out of tickets, man. How am I gonna get like 1,000 more Luca Mates from this fucking Greek place?
I want a hot dog that has every table scrap in your kitchen in it.
Oh, dude,
Do you have that?
Yeah. That is absolutely the Chicago dog. Whole pickle. A whole pickle is on it.
Yeah. Shit that has nothing to do with the hot dog is in there. There's a
whole
pickle.
Out of the amount of the ingredients, yeah, you're like, this is a whole pickle, a whole sausage, the whole bun, like a whole. These are solid chunks of food.
A wallet, you know, a part of a tire, a Tootsie Roll. Just whatever the fuck they find. We emptied out the lost and found thing in there.
Yeah.
A cup of soup, a dead union president, a dock worker,
keys to a Yaris,
an alderman,
an alderman, a pinky ring for some reason.
Oh, yes, pinky ring for sure. Oh, jeez Louise, man. So yeah, I've been working out with this thing because I don't want to. Because here's the thing: my dad got coronavirus, and it was fucking brutal.
He's okay now.
He is okay now. But there's been like some weird stuff that's happened since then. But like, yeah, he's okay now. Wow. I personally think that the reason that he made it through that was because he's not overweight and he was taking a lot of vitamin D supplementation, and I think that's really linked to it. So he got through it. But I was thinking to myself, man, I've got everything they say not to have when they're like, these complications will fuck you up on coronavirus, you know?
Yep.
And
asthma,
I was like,
overweight.
Yeah, I got to do all that shit. My blood sugar sucks dick, all that fucking shit,
Hidden dick inches. All the things they warn about.
Yeah. And then it's like, you got to do, I got to do something.
If they actually put that as one of the danger signs. It's like, if any of your dick is hidden by the fat on your body, you're at a high risk for coronavirus.
Yeah, but then everyone would just get the dumbest liposuction possible. Because like you still have your leg fat next to it. You'd have your stomach fat over it and your leg fat next to it. It would look like a pond with a fucking tree growing out of it. It would look so stupid.
I'm getting it tomorrow.
I'm doing it.
I will look rad as fuck.
Dude, it won't look rad. It will look like a game at the fair where you win tickets by rolling a ball where your dick is. You just roll a ball.
Like, what happened to that guy?
And that's just 25 points. But if you get the ball to stay where your belly button is, that's 100 points.
Why does he look like that? And why does he have a raging heart on?
Oh, dude, how awful would that be if you were hard during the whole surgery? And you're just like, I'm sorry, doc, I've got an association with vacuum cleaners near that area. I know you're sucking out the fat, but my boner doesn't know. It thinks it's that.
Doc, if you don't mind, could you choke me a little bit and cut my lips while we do this?
Yeah. Can you choke me a little bit and cut off half
my lips? Cut my lips too.
Cut half of my lips off. Don't tell a plastic surgeon to cut your lips off. We haven't talked about video games at all. Anyway, so I got this thing to do a nerdy workout because at-home workouts are so boring.
Right. I've heard that.
You've heard that. I think I saw that on YouTube.
Yeah.
My buddy Mike Bridenstine was like, "Oh, here's an easy at-home workout. Just take a deck of cards, shuffle it, draw 3 cards, and that's how many push-ups you got to do." And I was like, "Well, no, that sucks. I mean, that's just a random number of push-ups.
It's not a workout. That's a game.
Yeah.
That's not a game, Mike. That's just not a game.
It's an idiot's game. It's
That's
not a
just work disguised as a game, but
Yeah.
lazily done, with no actual end goal.
It's
What
the
a
equivalent
terrible
of
game.
It's the equivalent of taping brushes to a kid's feet and saying, "Clean the kitchen."
No,
it'll be
run around
fun.
the whole house 5 times.
Honestly, I think that kid is having more fun than a guy drawing 3 cards and going, "Ah, shit. Okay, 3 of diamonds. A queen counts as a 10." Like, who fucking cares? You got to do 23 push-ups.
You got a little
Man,
legend.
come on.
Blackjack.
What's the excitement
bust?
that you might draw? That you might draw 3 2s? What's the excitement?
That is the excitement that you might draw 3
You
twos.
don't know.
That you only have to do 6.
You do strip poker push-ups for yourself. You're just by yourself. You're like, oh man, if I can't do these push-ups, I have to take my shirt off.
All
Okay,
of
I
these,
didn't do these push-ups.
all of these home workouts ended me masturbating. Why is that?
Yeah, I would say that that's an accurate statement for all home workouts, right?
You hit a tipping point. Fuck this. I'm going back to pornography.
Dude, I was doing a pilot, and it was like an exercise for fat comedians pilot one time, and we wanted to do naked yoga. We were looking to see if there's a naked yoga studio in Los Angeles, and there was, but it was only for like gay dudes. But you had to meet. What?
How do you prove you're gay? Can you just
I don't
sign
know.
up and go, yep?
Yeah, you could.
Yeah.
You could. But the thing that sucked about it was they had a BMI index where you couldn't go in unless you were under a certain weight and a certain
That's
BMI.
some bullshit. That's ridiculous.
It is some bullshit. Yeah, it was stupid as hell. And I was like, how are we going to film our comedy, like, naked guy yoga thing, which would have crushed, that would have been awesome.
Well,
and
the thing is that there's literally no reason to enforce that kind of like even if you were trying, if you were to ask them what's the purpose, it's like I don't, basically I don't want to look at it. I mean, it doesn't make any sense.
No. Although I've noticed that boomer dudes are like this, both straight or gay. They have a real aversion to any sort of excess body weight. They're like, gross, in the dumbest way possible, as if they can't piece it together why BBW is like the second most searched porn term, it doesn't make sense. But then they were like, okay, I contacted them. I said, well, my buddy and I are both overweight. Can we film there? And they were like, we will consider it if you send a photograph of yourselves naked to us, and we'll decide if you're too heavy to do this or not. And I was like, get the fuck out of here.
Well, that's not humiliating at all.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do, is send a naked photo of myself and someone tell me if I'm too gross to come in a building where they're in.
Well, and even what's the garb where you're like, yup, that was disgusting, and I wish I hadn't gotten that email. Like how do you receive that nicely? Like, oh well, thank you for the photo. However, we have declined to allow you to be undressed in our presence. Like, what the fuck? That's
I guarantee
awful.
it would just be a response like no.
Yeah, no.
No.
Hard pass. Oh my god.
Try again, fatties.
So I got this workout mace because I don't want to do random number push-ups. There's nothing fun about a random number to me. I don't know if you guys get stoked for random numbers, but like, I mean, has that ever helped you get writing done, Avery? Do you take 3 dice, 6-sided dice, and roll them, and then you're like, that's how many pages I'm going to write today? Like, would that even excite you? Like, who cares?
to me that feels like, okay, look, maybe it's different because I feel like people like present company are more creative types. So when you do something, you want to feel inspired, you want to feel compelled. But I feel like
Yeah.
for a lot of people, like when Stephen King has some like advice about like writing and sitting and like going, you have to write this much every day. And I mean, maybe it's helpful, but to me it feels arbitrary, and it just feels like flexing a muscle, which is also like, I'm not to say that you can't be good at that, but I feel that like you're in that case, you're going to like write a bunch of stuff and maybe some of it's going to be really impressive, as opposed to like,
Yeah.
if you go with like, when you're inspired, you're going to be doing more stuff that is, I mean, maybe you're not writing as much, but what you're writing isn't basically.
It's a higher quality, definitely.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not just like, sure, this is my 100 words for the day that I don't really care about or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's true on some level. I think it doesn't hurt to just stay in practice even when you're uninspired. But even that, it's like when it starts to feel like work rather than passion, fuck it.
Yeah.
Good time
No,
to...
there's a law of diminishing returns on that stuff, like you're not going to get like the creative juices going. But yeah, there's nothing inspiring about a random number to me. Like, that isn't inspiring.
You know what it is? I think as a creative person, you would do just as well, if not far, far better, to rather than sit down and make yourself write every day, force yourself out of your comfort zone every day and do like experience a thing worth writing about rather than sitting at home trying to go, okay, I'll just get used to the monotony of it. And then one day it'll be fucking great. Because that day's never coming.
Exactly.
Yeah, I completely
doing
agree.
Journaling thing, because you're like, oh, I got to knock out this bit today or whatever. You never feel. I mean, like I said, compelled. It should make you feel like, oh, I want to talk about this. I want to get this out.
Yeah, I want like anything that I've done back when you could go outside, where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to get home and write about this. Yeah. That's what you should be searching for, is those kind of experiences,
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're 100% correct. I don't like that kind of advice. All that kind of advice also comes across to me as like, shit, I don't know, write a page every day. Like, they don't know. No one knows how they got successful, right? No one knows.
What it is? The advice like that smacks of them thinking, well, I'm just going to assume that you have no talent. And from what I've heard, practicing a lot makes untalented people better at what they do. So that's very safe advice I can give you.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, drawing every day, when I was on the show and drawing like hundreds of drawings like throughout the course of it, I do think that made me get way better at drawing. Like, I feel like if I look go ahead.
Well, they were paying you to do it too, and it was like,
that's the difference, man. That's a big difference.
Yeah,
you're a professional artist working. That's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, dude. Todd McFarlane was talking about that. He was like, whenever I run into a comic book illustrator who I'm working with, who feels like overwhelmed or not confident, I tell them to just come in and take the office next to me, and I'm just going to make sure you're doing a ton of shit. Like, because that's how you're going to feel better. Like, you're going to get, he goes, I guarantee you, after a month of me checking in and making sure you're crushing all these deadlines, there's no way you won't be better, So I get the practice thing. I do think, though, that when people are like, oh, how did you do that? Do you have any advice for people? I think a lot of times they don't have a lot of advice, really, because everyone did totally differently,
Right.
Well, and it's not like if Stephen King wasn't doing his once daily writing exercise that like all his success would be for naught. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Still Stephen King. he still would have tossed that stuff out at one point or another, even if it wasn't being written once a day or whatever, you know.
Yeah, it would have been whenever the mood grabbed him, and it would have been awesome. You know.
I do.
Speaking of Todd McFarlane, did you guys hear about his Kickstarter?
No. What is he doing?
Holy shit. Okay, you know how way back when he started Spawn, there was all this interest from like Mattel and Kenner to do Spawn action figures and stuff.
Yeah.
And he looked at their samples and heard their numbers and stuff like that. And he was like, fuck it, I'm just going to start my own toy company because I know what I want and I can do it better. And so he did. Now they're celebrating like their 40th anniversary. And so he wanted to do like an update of that very first figure he did.
I saw this. I think I saw it on your Instagram, maybe.
And so
did you
it was.
link?
I did, yeah. And so it was like, this is what we're going to do, like with modern technology, what that figure would be like today. And it looked really amazing. And he was like, if we can get $100,000, we'll do one for everyone that subscribed. Yesterday, it hit $3.4 million.
Yeah, of course it did. Dude, but that first Spawn, I remember seeing it, and my little brother had gotten it, and we had gotten that one and Medieval Spawn because they came out around the same time.
Yeah, that first wave.
I could not believe how good they looked. Those first Todd Toys things, like they looked so awesome.
The Todd stuff was really, really incredible. I mean, I collected all like the Hellraiser and like what was it, the like Twisted Fairy Tales.
Those were great. I remember seeing some of those at your place. They were awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a little sad that the collection's kind of gotten dispersed over time. But he did one that was like a famous like serial killers or like madmen throughout history, and it was like Billy the Kid and Rasputin and like these kind of characters who are actually historical but have that really cool like, you know, supernatural tone to them.
Yeah, and he did like different artist interpretations of different characters and stuff like that, and it was really a lot of fun, and it revolutionized the industry where all these other companies now are just, it's kind of like the Tucker automobile where they're just now starting to implement things that he's been doing for 20 years now.
Yeah,
so
for sure. They were so much better because at the same time, around that same time, Mike, do you remember how shitty the X-Men toys were by Toy Biz?
Absolutely.
Dude, I mean, compare. Jim Lee's art was Jim Lee had just been, he'd left for Image at that point, but he was a big part of why X-Men was popular at that time. You know? You're associating Jim Lee, Will Sportasio, all these fucking amazing artists, and then you go and you pick up your Toy Biz action figures, and it looks like a fucking lump of shit with Cyclops eyes on it.
McDonald's toys.
Dude, it did look like McDonald's toys. It was embarrassing. The only good one was Nightcrawler, and he had a fucking suction cup.
And he had one in the middle of his thigh for no good reason. What pose is that for? You know.
And he was the only good-looking one. Tail. yeah, but he was the only good look. I remember being so disappointed at
Wolverine sucked. Wolverine looked like Harvey Keitel. He was all stubby, like they tried to do like how short he is, but the sculptor didn't know how to do it, so it was like he mushed him down. He's
got like foreshortened limbs.
Exactly, that was totally it.
He gets done with the clay. They're like, actually, he's like 5'2", and the guy's like,
I wish this other box could be just for pictures of stuff like that we can show people. But Google Toy Biz first X-Men, they're fucking terrible.
Dude, they're real bad, and it was right when X-Men was so awesome. And you were like, I gotta get the toys, man. And then you see them, and you're like, I want to take a shit in this KB Toys because this
shit.
KB Toys.
But literally, right next to them are the Todd McFarlane stuff. With a bunch of Image characters that no one's ever heard of, and they look fucking amazing. You know, he did Malebolgia, which was like Satan essentially, and that figure was the same price as all the other figures, and it was like 25 inches tall and had real hair.
It was massive,
Yeah, it was fucking huge. But yeah, so I'm happy for him. I know a lot of people think he's a scumbag or whatever. So is everybody else. So I'm just happy he did a cool thing and that it's working out, you know.
He's just got that, he taught, what is it? It's like some kind of, I don't know where he's from, but he talks like a Teamster. He's got that.
He's got like a weird lisp. Like a lateral lisp.
But he's also like real pushy too. Like,
yeah.
Like I guess he's just like kind of brusque with people, but I loved his book on art because he talked about feeling like really out of his league compared to other comic book artists.
That's
and so
amazing.
He would try to distract people because he always thought his art was bad compared to other people. So He would do like Celtic knotwork borders for his panels and stuff like that. And you know how he's always had cool panels. Like he'll have like Spawn's cape become the next fucking panel, you know, or whatever. He would always do this amazing shit with the storytelling. Well, the reason he did that was because he was embarrassed that he wasn't a good enough artist. Isn't that amazing?
Oh yeah, he got me back into Marvel with his version of Spider-Man and that real flexible insect-like sort of movement that he had. I was this guy nailed Spider-Man. You know,
it made Spider-Man it made him like popular again.
Yeah,
McFarlane Spider-Man made him popular again, and then he had Spider-Man chuck a sword into fucking what's his name's eye. Who was that guy with
I don't remember
with the helmet on from Juggernaut?
Oh.
He throws Excalibur, I think, into Juggernaut's eye, and it like blinds him. And he wanted to draw it like all gory like this, and Stan Lee was like, "You can't do that. You got to show it from the side." And that was the first time. It's like,
I like that Stan Lee still wants it in there. But you got to show it from the side.
You can do it. Just be smart about it.
We're gonna get sued.
Was when Todd McFarlane was like, maybe I start my own fucking company, man.
Yeah,
I can't show this cool
well,
shit.
he did a very cool thing with Wolverine once that I thought was pretty fucking great, where the Wendigo was in like North America, just killing the small village slowly but surely, and people kept going out to hunt it, and it kept killing them. So Wolverine goes out there and finds out that the reason it's been coming to the village and terrorizing people is because it's got like a bullet stuck in its leg, and it's trying to get help. And so he performs surgery with his claws to get it out, and then the Wendigo runs off and never bothers the village again. And I was like, that's a pretty fucking cool story.
That's a story though. That's a
it's an old about the real one. I think is about a mouse and a lion.
Yeah.
The mouse helps him get like a thorn out of his paw. Yeah,
I love it when people do that kind of shit, man. Have you guys been playing? Oh, but by the way, Mike, I was going to recommend this to you too. This workout mace thing, because
get a workout mace.
It's so much more fun than a regular workout because you're doing barbarian shit instead of normal boring ass bull crap.
I really do respond to that because when I was in the gym and I was doing like axe handles and stuff like that, I was like, this is fun and it actually really works for me. And I could like feel the results very, very quickly.
Yeah, that functional strength stuff will fucking wipe you out, man, compared to fucking getting on a fucking treadmill, you know?
Well, yeah, and now when I play video games and I see characters doing that shit, I'm like, he would need to rest a lot in between a lot of these moves.
Right?
You know?
Yeah, for sure. That always makes me laugh when they have like a skinny archer or whatever. I'm like, do you know what the pound pressure on that fucking bowstring would be to fucking pull it back all the way?
Right.
Like Cloud Strife, just like lifting that Buster Sword off his back, like,
exactly.
Whatever, no deal. And then swinging it.
Swinging it once maybe, but that's like a day.
Yeah, and then I'm spent.
Yeah. And like it's funny that I remember I would watch action movies as a kid and you'd see like one guy fighting 100 guys in a sword fight or whatever. And it's like,
Yeah.
now I'm like, okay, that guy would need to factor in a place to rest in between killing these guys if he was going to do it. And the only movie that I remember ever addressing that was this movie with Antonio Banderas called The 13th Warrior. Did you see that?
Yes, that's based on the Michael Crichton book, Eaters of the Dead.
Yeah, Eaters of the Dead.
Look,
it was originally going to be called Eaters of the Dead. And at one point, there's a Viking that he's with that they're cornered and they're in this, but they've got like the 300 setup where it's like they can only come in one at a time to fight us. And that guy goes, okay, we fight by twos. And when a team of two gets tired, we'll wake up the other two. And I was like, that's such a great plan for living through that, for surviving that sort of thing. That's all.
That's all I had to say. That's movie, our plan for if we're ever stuck, in like a box canyon in a 300.
If we're ever playing Gauntlet and can take time in between eating each other's turkeys to divide.
Wait for them to regenerate.
You motherfuckers keep shooting the turkey. But Mike, that is a criminally underrated movie and book. I think anybody who is into mythology should watch it because it talks. I mean, it's just really, if you're into language, mythology, how books are made, how legends are written, like
even
it's just
theology,
a really cool.
Because it reads, or even just history, exploration, because it reads like an actual account of someone from a world that we actually don't get a lot of point of view, like the Middle East. We don't have a lot of historical documents from that time. I mean, at least not as a Western culture that we're familiar with. But then to get that, to get him in this Viking world, which has its own level of fascination. I thought it was really cool. And the book's super short. I mean, you can get through it in a day if you're a reader,
Yeah.
It's also more clear in the book that the trolls that they're fighting are Neanderthals, which is like really cool. That there was a time not long ago at all, where there were other Homo sapiens sharing the earth with us, which is like, you think about Middle Earth and you think about all these fantasy stuff. They talk about dwarves and elves and trolls and goblins and all that other stuff. But there was a time not long ago at all where Neanderthals in certain parts of Europe were still around when people were starting to write Bronze Age mythology and shit. They were there, and a Neanderthal would fuck you up. This is a 4.5 to 5 foot tall human that's stronger than a chimpanzee, like that has an elongated spatial awareness part of their brain for essentially combat. I mean, they went one-on-one with spears against saber-toothed tigers. There's saber-toothed tiger teeth marks in their bones of people who died of old age. So old Neanderthals were killed, saber-toothed tiger. They lived through that shit, man. I mean, that's crazy. So then you think about
it's crazy to think that they're human enough to be capable of, say, that kind of thing, of like intelligent combat and like even like strategized attacks and everything, but that they're also biologically different enough that they would have been perceived as a monster, a yeti, a big, you know what I mean, that kind of thing.
Or like a separate human, not a human. They would think that they were not quite a human. You know?
Yeah, that's crazy. I did like that the book was. It wasn't at any point 100% supernatural, or there wasn't a point where you went, okay, I get it, I see what exactly. It was like you realized if you know enough of your references and your history, you can go, oh, I see, they're not actually fighting these monster things. This is that time period and that locale where there would have been that sort of,
I like that kind of element in storytelling when it's done right. Like in Firefly, what I loved about that show is there were no aliens. It was all just humans terraforming on different planets.
Yeah.
On one planet, a bunch of them went fucking nuts and started like becoming like real extreme murder, rape pirates that would just like sail to other planets and stuff like that and fuck people up. And I don't know, I like the idea of telling a story that seems like fantasy, but is more based in a very real place, you know, of things that people are actually capable of doing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really like it. I was surprised that it didn't do that well, you know, in the theaters and stuff. Cause I was like, whoa, man, this is fucking cool, dude. You know?
Well, they changed the name of it about halfway through production. I remember that.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing trailers for Eaters of the Dead, and I was looking forward to it. And then they changed it to the 13th Warrior. And I think it just seemed too dark for a lot of people, I think.
Well, I remember the ads had it packaged as they were really emphasizing the fact of the love story, basically, between, you know, because the whole reason why he gets chosen to get sent on this mission that is basically a suicide mission is because he's in love with the king's girl or whatever, you know, and doesn't want, and he wants to like break it up, so he sends them away. But I feel like the commercial really played it up more like a almost like The Fountain, where it was like he was doing all this to like get back to her, where at a certain point it's like the old life becomes almost completely negligible when they're just fighting for survival in this like almost mythological world, you know?
Yeah. I do like that his horse is so fucking small too, and they can't talk. They keep talking shit about his tiny little horse, his little scimitar. And at the time, Arabic culture was like incredibly advanced.
Yeah,
you know, so like him like going over there and being able to write. Remember how freaked out they get when he writes down what people are saying and then reads it back, and they're like, "How the fuck did you know?" Like it's like it was like magic to them, you know.
Yeah, and I loved little moments in that movie. Like, I can't lift this sword. Grow stronger. Just like that was the advice.
Yeah, that must have been crazy, dude. All that Bronze Age shit, man. Because those people were probably smarter than we give them credit for, you know. Because I mean, it ain't easy. I mean, we're talking about people who looked at a shiny rock and were like, "Fuck, man. If I heat that up in a campfire long enough, maybe I can make a fucking axe out of it." What? Like, how did you get there? How did they get there, man? That shit is smart, dude. I mean, I'd be like, "Oh, they don't have iPads." Like, it's like the dumbest thing to say about it.
It's even just the fact that they were able to, it must have been just some like observational stuff where they saw something that was, you know, had undergone heat or weathering or whatever and went, oh, hey, if we can replicate that or if we can speed up that process, we can do that. I mean, it's logic, which exactly is like the step above. Like there are even animals who can do logic, but then like if you complicate it, it really is really impressive. I wonder too about their emotional complexity, you know, about that there is this idea that they're almost like Neanderthal and but I mean, they're still going to have affection for their clan and you know, and attachments to the things that they
to them the stakes are life and death, you know. And you know, I remember when I was a kid going to like a history museum and seeing just a collection of different arrowheads and thinking I couldn't make one of these. It would take me a year and a half to whittle it down, let alone to make it as symmetrical as they made it.
And to make it functional. Exactly. You're like, I could make something pointy, maybe. But, you know.
But my arrows are going to shoot off to one side or, you know, like right into the ground or something. And it would never have occurred to me to add feathers to the back. You know, just the different things the different advancements that were made throughout history that people came up with and how the fuck they came up with it is pretty staggering.
I mean, Neanderthals, they were buried with artwork. So like people made stuff for their burials, which means it was a significant loss. The same way we would, it's a very human it's a very human thing. I think it was a mistake by scientists to think of it as anything other than a branch of Homo sapiens, you know, like rather than the way we've kind of handled it right now. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah.
You guys playing any video games?
Boy, howdy.
Yes.
Playing Avery.
So so you guys know about my love for horror movies and such, and horror games. What?
No.
Huh? And as it follows horror games, I really like Supermassive. They've done Heavy Rain and Until Dawn.
Okay.
And last year they actually came out with a game called, weird ass title, but it's called the Dark Pictures Anthology, Man of Medan. And I guess it's right, it's like, okay, whatever, sure.
Man of Medan.
Man of Medan. But the Dark Pictures Anthology part is like the static title, and then they're releasing other titles as time goes on. And I finally got to play it, and it's really good. It's like Until Dawn, where it's, there's a couple different playable characters that you can take through the story. The story changes as you either keep them alive or lose them. You can completely control, their encounters, and I like it. And it's just basically a combination of things like QuickTime events and dialogue decisions. So, kind of like an advanced Telltale. But their video capture is off the charts. I mean, even back in 2015, when I think Until Dawn came out, Peter Stormare is one of the major characters in it. They have, and I think Rami Malek is in it too. And like Peter Stormare, you can you can watch him, and you're like, oh yeah, that's totally, who he is.
Wow.
And then in this new one, I was watching it, and the guy was like, oh, he looks really, really familiar. And then I was watching a show last night with the actor, and from the way he held his mouth and even spoke, I was like, that's the guy from the Man of Medan game, because it's such a solid capture down to nuances, and it was really, really good.
That's cool.
Yeah, but it's like a horror game about a bunch of some spoiled rich kids who go out to explore wreck and then get taken over by basically like modern day pirates who take them to a bigger like wreck that's sort of this mystery haunted like Flying Dutchman kind of ship. And of course that's where the horror unfolds. So, and they have a new game coming out in the series later, so I kind of wanted to see how the series was, to see if it was worth investing in the next part, and I would say definitely.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, I mean, not too different from Until Dawn, as far as gameplay, and nothing radically different. I would say it's a little more limited because there's fewer characters, shorter gameplay, but it's also, a cheaper game, and it's part of like I said, like an installment series. So it's not, I think I didn't feel cheated at all. It's definitely just not a full game the way that something like Until Dawn would be. So, yeah, highly recommended.
That sounds cool. I may check that out. And it's called Dancing Dan.
Dancing Dan Electric Boogaloo.
It's called Dancing Dan the Man.
Yeah.
Dancing Dan the Banana Man. And,
if you look at Dark Pictures, Dark Pictures is the name of like the series. So, and it's one of those two where it's like also there's a bit of that detective work where if you go through the game, there's clues to uncover, and if you uncover those clues, they can give you tips for later interactions. So if you happen to like uncover a clue that showed you, but they're not, you still have to piece it together. Like it's not, it'll show you like some kind of weird flashes, and then maybe later when you have that interaction, you're like, oh, I saw in that vision that like we get into a fight here, so maybe I need to avoid having conflict with this person so that we don't get into a fight, and that kind of thing. It's
that's cool.
Yeah, I really enjoyed
it. It'd be fun to play a game like that. Either way, whether they're like dicks about the time travel aspect or the vision aspect, and if they made it fun where like you see a vision like that and there's just somehow no way of avoiding the fight would be kind of fun. Or
there are some, and that's it. Is it gives you the feeling. That's it. Is it gives you the feeling that, oh shit, well maybe if I'd gone this way instead, or whatever. That
sounds very cool.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and this one also has a multiplayer function that's sort of like you pass the controller at certain points. So it's kind of, I imagine it has a bit of fun and frustration level where if there's like, let's say that there's a character that you just worked really hard to save, and then it's like passes over the controller to you, and then you start playing with him and you immediately like, drop him off a ledge,
right, yeah.
it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. And it looks like it has the option too, where it's got cool achievements based on, which Until Dawn did too, based on even just like numbers, like, oh, keep all the boys alive, keep all the girls alive, keep nobody alive, keep everybody alive. And you can go back to individual chapters and play individual scenarios to kind of, trophy farm. So yeah, it's right up my alley.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Mike, why are you smiling?
Was I smiling?
Yeah, you had a funny smile.
Look, he's just happy with life. He's filled with the joy of friendship and community.
I'm not telling him to stop smiling. It's not
well,
like
I was thinking of how she said game that's like right up my alley, and I was like, that's probably Predator for me right now. Where it was almost like Santa got all my letters.
Finally, all these years later.
Yeah. And man, as much as I think we all loved Friday the 13th quite a bit, this game is a quantum leap from that. As far
really
as
it's better.
How cool they made the Predator, and like the way you can move through a forest with that character is amazing. You don't even really, if you have your head in the game, you don't even really need the camouflage.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely OP as fuck. And then as you progress, you get even better weapons, which make him even worse. But when you're playing as one of the humans, because you get a squad of 4, military people all working together, you're doing actual missions that you're trying to accomplish, and the Predator is just there, and
I like that it gives you so much else to do. That's the bummer thing with Friday, is that it was like, if you want to try to save your ass, you could try to fix the car or the phone box, but otherwise you could just survive. But yeah, I like that it was like mission based, and all of a sudden you'd be like, oh shit, right, we're being hunted right now,
Yeah, and you forget at different points, and at different points, if it's someone cool playing as the Predator, sometimes they'll help you complete the mission, and then fuck you up,
Yeah.
And I've had them wait till the very last second, and I'm literally on the rope to the helicopter, and they kill me then.
That's awesome.
And like, oh, motherfucker, And the different options that you have as a player on both sides, and just how to customize your characters. You can put war paint on the Predator's mask, and you can put like trophies on his belt and stuff like that.
You can do Lady Predator too. I really like the level of customization they made. Like you said, it's not like Jason isn't OP and like Predator is obviously OP, but it does feel cool that there's so much for them to do. It's not just catch up to the killer, counters and kill them.
And I've had times where I've just barely eked out a victory and like killed the Predator, but he can still do what he does in the movie and use the nuclear option, and to kill him and escape the nuke, the level of achievement you feel when you do that is pretty fucking intense. And,
that's awesome.
And I love that no matter how long you're playing, the way they set up the upgrade system for like not just leveling up, but you can level up each weapon that you use the more you use it. And every level you get basically a loot crate that gives you 3 items. And if they're repeat items, you get XP to buy other crates if you want. And just the way they set all that up made it very consistently fun to keep trying and keep leveling up, and the different character builds you can do are so much fun. and trying out different weapons and seeing it's like, oh, this one's really effective against him, and this one is really terrible against him but good against the AI that I'm dealing with, and that sort of thing, you know. And the perks that you can get for the Predator too are really fucking cool. You know, you can do things like you can have a dithered lens on that shoulder cannon so that people can't see the red stream. They can only see like the dots, the 3 dots when they're nearby or something like that. And the way when you're playing as a human, you'll hear a sound and be like, is he right behind me toying with me, or is he really fucking far away? And then someone nowhere near you gets killed, and you're like, oh, fuck, okay. Now I got to go try and save that guy, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
It's really well done, yeah. And it's the same team, Milphonic, that did it, and they did a tremendous job on it.
I only played it a little bit than when we did the demo or the trial weekend, but I really enjoyed it. If they were not in such dire financial straits, I would probably pick it up. But you know, they're so good with them doing deals and like cut rate weekends and stuff that I have a feeling it would be available at a reasonable price eventually.
Yeah, and eventually I think they'll probably do what they did with something like Battlefronts, where they just kind of do away with the crates and just say, hey, if you want this thing, you can fucking buy it. And we're going to make the game itself real low price. And then you can just buy whatever customization shit you want.
Yeah.
So I've been playing that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
It sounds like, because I think we had a fantasy about what it would be like, a fantasy talk on Power Pounds about what it would be like. It sounds like they did like a lot of the stuff we wanted to see in it, you know?
Absolutely. I think the only thing that I would have added that they didn't do is very obvious is I would have just gotten the likeness rights for Schwarzenegger and maybe for like Danny Glover and Gary Busey. And, you know, had a few people like that you could unlock in the game. But they don't use any of them, but they have a lot of nods to different characters in the game. Like if you pre-ordered, you immediately start with Painless, the minigun, and you can get different guys like face makeup that they wore, you know, their war paint and stuff.
Yeah.
And different weapons that were like signature weapons in the film. You can do cool things like making mud camo makes you less visible to the Predator.
Yeah.
And
but it's one of your customization slots. So there's some other really valuable stuff that you could put in there. So
exactly,
you know, like early on, it might be something that you're like, oh yeah, duh, I want that. But then as you start going on and you're like, God damn, do I really want to give up this boost just so I can have the camo? Or do I just want to keep my ass moving? You know?
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, oh, I could have an extra health pack, which I know we're gonna need.
Yeah.
Or I could have grenades, and I would rather have grenades. You know.
Yeah.
And like I find myself all the time when I think the Predator is nearby me, just throwing a bunch of grenades all over the area and hoping for the best. And sometimes it works
so
out.
You're like in the movie then, Mike. That's what they did. That's what they did.
Yeah.
They saw, they heard one thing, they got one speck of blood on the thing, and they just go nuts. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, you can do that with the minigun where you can just tear up the forest and you see like huge branches falling down and stuff like that. And what was the other thing I was going to tell you guys about it that was fucking cool? I thought
I love the pathways in the trees. Predator, the motion, the movement with that is incredible.
Yeah, the way he can move through the trees is fucking amazing. And they have the disc weapon from the second one, and you can use that on snipers. But when you fire it, your POV changes to the disc.
Yeah,
and so you're following it around to the target.
Oh, that's dope.
It's so satisfying when you just slice through 2 soldiers at once or something, you know. And when it goes to self-destruct, if you're right there, you can actually try and defuse it by matching up the symbols.
Oh shit, that's cool.
And if you do it right, then the game goes into a mode where you're trying to protect the carcass from AI soldiers coming to take it. And if you last through that, you get a special cutscene of your characters like loading the dead predator onto a chopper and stuff like that.
That is so cool.
They really put so much thought and love into it. And I don't know for sure, but my guess is that around Christmas, they're going to drop the price and they're going to do a patch that'll add in aliens stuff.
Yeah.
That would be dope,
and for the humans, they'll have like the pulse rifle and that sort of thing. And they'll add in like different levels from aliens and that sort of thing.
I'm not as intimate with the Predator universe as I am with Friday the 13th, but like I could feel that it had the same sort of like series love that the Friday game did, where it was like,
absolutely,
if you know it, you will catch references everywhere, just like all over the place, and you'll be impressed. Like, yeah, this looks exactly like it did in the movie or whatever. And I could feel that even just in the demos. I was equipping stuff. I was like, the range of options on this, I can tell are like, oh, this is just in case somebody's favorite look is this weird arbitrary thing from like this 10-second shot.
This weird army hat that this guy wore or something like that. Or this weird way of doing the face paint and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's a lot of fun. Another game that I've been playing is The Outer Worlds. Have either of you been playing that?
I've heard of it.
No, but I do know that it is. This is interesting. I was talking to former Power Palace member Jerry about this. He didn't realize this. So this is basically takes place if Mr. House 1 in Fallout New Vegas.
Oh, okay.
You remember where he talks about colonizing the stars?
Yeah.
So this is what they envisioned as their follow-up to Fallout New Vegas. But since it takes place in space, they don't have to worry about copyright infringement with the Fallout series. But this is what they intended as a spiritual successor to Fallout New Vegas in a world in which...
Very cool.
In a world in which that fucking genius robot guy took over and is now launching people off to explore shit.
Well, now I feel bad about killing him in the game.
I killed him the first time too, and I felt like fucking shit when I saw his shitty little body. You know?
I shot him. I shot his shitty little body with a shotgun, and it went, oh.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, fuck, now I feel bad. Maybe this was a mistake.
Yeah, maybe it was a mistake to pull this guy out of the equivalent of a wheelchair and beat him to death.
Yeah. I shot him and he was like, why?
I felt the same way. I felt the same way when I took my granddad off an iron lung and stabbed him.
Oh, God. But yeah, his body just lay there in the fucking thing, and I was like, oh man, this was a bad idea.
Yeah, it did suck, but I did want to roll. The first time I wanted to run Vegas by myself, you know?
Yeah.
But then I realized that's stupid as hell. This guy should definitely be in charge. This weirdo, like, computer builder should definitely be in charge.
Yeah, that game ended kind of weird no matter what. Like, there was no... I wanted there to be a bigger, weirder battle, and they're just... Do you remember it ended with like a bunch of Roman troops just standing around, and they were like, "I guess you won."
Guess that's it. Guess it's over.
I thought that was fucking weird, but
I mean, it is weird. I mean, there's a guy who's pretending to be Caesar, who half the voice actors call Kaiser because they weren't on the same page with how they pronounce it. And I cannot stand that shit with voice acting in video games, where in the same conversation, the director didn't go, ah, shit, they should pronounce these things the same. We're going to take a plane, a jet over to Coruscant. Yeah, and when you meet me at Coruscant, it will be fucking fantastic. Like, they fucking... They never get like that. Shit happens all the time, dude.
Shout out to my
You know
buddy
what
Brian.
gets me? On that
What?
same token, it gets me when there is a pronunciation of something, like it's established, but then when you talk to people, like real people about it, they just kind of call it whatever they want. It happened all the time in World of Warcraft because a lot of the names weren't expressly said somewhere, but you could kind of like, I don't know, if you were like following the language of the world, you could kind of like figure, but then people would say the names of things and you're like, where did you pull that from? Like, read it.
Right.
Where did you get that extra vowel from? It's just not there.
Dude, that happens. That happens in fantasy stuff all the time
All
because
the
they're
time.
not common words, and your brain kind of goes, whatever, like if it's not a common word for you, and then you end up like fucking not knowing how to say Lothlorien or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you say some weirdo shit. Like there was a guy who was playing World of Warcraft who was friends with us at Chicago Public Radio, and he would say Argo instead of aggro because he didn't know that it meant like aggravate, basically,
Yeah,
like,
or aggression, yeah.
or mob's getting aggressive. So he'd say Argo, and we'd be like, "The fuck are you getting Argo from?" And then he kept saying dual yield instead of dual wield
That's funny.
because.
Dual
And I
yield.
was like, let me
yield.
ask you why you're saying dual yield. And he goes, oh, because it's yielding twice as many attacks. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's correct. You are yielding twice as many attacks, you weirdo financial advisor.
What are you
But, like,
talking about?
you
That's so
are
funny.
also wielding two swords in your hand.
When these attacks I've yielded mature, you're going to have some real damage on your hands.
Past performance of DPS attacks not indicative of future performance of DPS or
There is substantial risk involved in each attack.
Oh, jeez, this is awful.
World of Warcraft is not a financial advisor, and no
World of Warcraft Wall Street Edition.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean with that weirdo stuff.
Or
but
like,
yeah, so
like dyslexia is rampant in the nerd community, and you'll hear someone say something where you're like, you're just switching letters. I realized at the end of my 2 years at FITM that I'd been spelling polyurethane the whole time, polyurethane. And it wasn't until literally the last project I did, I was looking at it going, hold the phone. That's not right. And I looked back through every single project and was like, yeah, polyurethane every single time. Cool.
I found out this year that I sometimes say vigilantes.
Vigilante.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. That sounds it sounds like a much fancier vigilante.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, is it not? I thought it was a tomato thing because I say vigilante too, like vigilante justice, right?
Yeah, I've always said vigilante
Vigilante.
justice, and everyone goes vigilante, and I was like, yeah, maybe. Maybe.
I say
Zorro.
tomato. I think it's a vase vase thing.
I don't think it is. I think it's vigilante, but Zorro is a vigilante.
Yeah. Especially Zorro the Gay Blade, which is one of the funniest homophobic movies ever.
The Scarlet Pimpernel is a vigilante.
You better believe it, man. Dude, fruity, good booty. Have you seen the lyrics to the original Little Richard's, rest in peace, Little Richard version of Tutti Frutti?
Duly departed. No.
No.
You know it was about fucking dudes in the butt, right? And it was a hugely popular song, and it was a comedy song that he would only sing at live gigs. And it went, Tutti Frutti, good booty, Tutti Frutti, good booty. If it's greasy, goes in easy. Tutti Frutti, good booty. Like, and it was just about fucking a dude in the ass. And people
All
would
of
go,
that is true.
yeah, that is.
These are true lyrics.
Yeah.
Um,
But then they were like, why don't you do Tutti Frutti? Why don't you do a recording of Tutti Frutti? It's like, I'm not going to record Tutti Frutti. That's a joke song. Like, no one's going to allow me to do it. They're like, oh, you can just change it to something.
Wop
And then that's
babaloo
what it
mappa wop bam boom. That'll sell them.
is. That's why I put Rudy in it.
Rudy, I'll get him every time.
Instead of good booty. But Mike, I've heard that Outer Worlds is amazing. I heard that the relationships in the game are really cool. The NPCs are amazing.
I really love it. It's, to me, the structure that they set up is Firefly on an unlimited budget. You know, you're the captain of a ship and you have this great crew that you assemble, and then you just go on different missions of space piracy, essentially, you know, and they really made it a lot of fun. Now, the big difference is from Firefly is that in the game, there are aliens and there are like cool different creatures and shit like that to fight. And there's a big corporate entity that you sometimes compete with and sometimes you get in league with. And the combat system is fun and not very difficult to learn. It's very similar to the Fallout system. I prefer the Fallout system a little bit more because it's a little more exacting. You know, you can do things like shoot someone in the leg and their fucking leg will explode. Whereas this is, there's a much more of an emphasis on slow motion and strategizing.
Yeah, I don't think they were able to do a VATS kind of thing because it's too
Right.
copywritten, you know?
Yeah. You know, but the system that they came up with works really well and is a lot of fun. And also, they did a thing that I really appreciate, which is they made the ways people react to different weapons very cool. Like if someone is electrocuted, they'll die in a very fun sort of way. Or if someone's hit with like a plasma rifle, you'll kind of see like heat emanate from the center of them and then they just slowly disintegrate.
That's cool.
And they'll do things like if you hit someone with a plasma rifle and they're running, they'll just keep running until there's just dust, you know? So they did some really fun stuff like that, you know? And the different stories and characters that you meet are cool. And some of them are very like Old West style and some of them are more, classic sci-fi sort of tropes and that sort of thing. You pick up one character who essentially starts out as like a gigantic Roomba, and then you slowly turn him into your combat droid.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
He ends up being really fucking helpful, you know. So,
That's awesome, man. I heard really good things about it. I might end up getting it eventually. I got to hook up an external drive to my PlayStation though, because it's
running out of memory.
It's all full right now, man. I'm making some tough decisions.
Yeah.
Well, you know, you can save things on the cloud.
Yeah, but then it's just like re-downloading stuff. I had to make Elder Scrolls Online go goodbye for a little bit because it's just so big. You know, that game is just ridiculous how large it is.
I did that too. Elder Scrolls, like Witcher, it's like they're like close to like 100 gigs because they're a full collection. You know, it's
yeah.
Games.
My buddy John Little wanted me to play Call of Duty, the new free one. That thing is like 120 gigs.
Yeah.
And it sucks too. It's one of those games that it's like, if you're really rich, you're really amazing at this game, you know?
Yeah, that, man. Was this before John Little left town in a panic?
Yeah, to join back up with the militia or whatever.
Hey, I tell you what, man, these fucking lefties are gonna fucking take all your rights away. They got tanks driving down the street. he's got nuts, bro. He's got nuts with his Corona situation. It's
Yeah.
real interesting.
He's a lot of fun in this situation.
Yeah, man. I got Winnie a game for her birthday
Mm-hmm.
that she got really excited about. So we've been really into JRPGs lately because she really likes the character design. She really likes anime stuff anyway. And so she just really goes nuts for it. Also, there's more character development than a lot of other games have when you do the Japanese role-playing game stuff. I don't know why that is, but there's more emotional scenes. Like there's just like little scenes where like characters, talk about their fucking feelings or whatever, and like it makes it a lot easier for her to like get into that game. So we've been playing this game called Trials of Mana, which is a remake of Secret of Mana 2. I don't know if you, Mike, if you ever played the first Secret of Mana on Super Nintendo, but it
I
was
never did.
And it was an awesome game. It's an awesome game. It's by SquareSoft, and it's like a halfway between a role-playing game and a beat 'em up game. So you kind of go around the world, with an action RPG kind of thing, fighting people and stuff like that, and leveling up your magic and your weapons and stuff, and getting different armor and stuff at towns. But there's a really cool thing in Trials of Mana, which is you have different classes that you can level up into, which changes your character's abilities and also what they look like in really cool ways. And that's been like really fun for her to be like, well, I'll make this guy become like a paladin so he can have this shiny white armor, and then I'll make this lady into like this witch by going down a completely dark path, because then she gets these cool devil horns and like this big cape and all this other shit. Like it's just really she's really into it. She's almost beaten it, and she's in kindergarten, dude, which is pretty amazing when you think about like tactically what she's got to do to be like, oh, this is a like an undead boss. I'm going to use holy magic on it, so like it does more damage and shit, like figuring that kind of stuff out.
Wait, was the original game the one where you were trying to become a paladin and you weren't allowed
you're thinking
to?
Of Hero Quest. You're thinking of Hero Quest, which they changed into Quest for Glory. But yeah, that's a game where if you're trying to become a paladin, and if you spy on a girl naked, at the end a giant
a winged lion, isn't it?
a winged lion tells you can't be a paladin. That happened to I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know Will Weldon, but do you know the comedian Will Weldon, Mike?
No,
He's a really funny guy. But he was telling me that on a podcast we did years and years ago where he was crying because he didn't get to be a paladin because he was like 9 or whatever. And his mom asked him why he was crying, and he confessed that he had watched the princess take her clothes off behind a curtain, and that the lion man with wings wouldn't let him be a paladin now at the end of the game because of that. And she was just like, fuck you. His mom was just like, go fuck yourself, kid.
I love that a 9-year-old had to confess to his mother the reason his political career wasn't moving forward because he spied on a lady undressing. And the winged lion told him that his career was over.
Yeah, Winnie is super into these two characters in Trials of Mana, Angela and Duran. One's a witch and one's a knight. And she can't stop talking about them. It's like baby's first ship, like she's just like talking about them constantly. And it's really funny. But at dinner the other day, she was like, I think I'll write a short story for my teacher where Angela and Duran are getting really sassy and they try to take a shower together. And we were like, no, you will not do that.
Is this for Sweeps Week?
You won't be doing that, but it's nice to know that you are my child, you know?
I like
Yeah.
I love how she's trying to play it like it's just some hijinks, that they might be
Yeah.
up to, so that she
I
can
mean,
try to get them naked and wet together.
yeah, but I'm sure like in
Real
her head,
sassy.
it's
Really, yeah,
just
sassy stuff.
it is just hijinks, like I don't think she understands why she wants them to be in this hilarious predicament, you know. And then she was singing like a theme song for it. Like she's like, maybe they have a TV show and it'd be like Angela and Duran get sassy, take a shower together. We're like, no, that wouldn't be.
What do you mean, no? Why aren't you pitching this to Netflix?
I mean, you can't. I mean, yeah, I'm not going to pitch them that.
The kid's got a great show that she's cooked up.
Oh, speaking of
sexy
sassy,
cartoon written by a child that you
Yeah.
dollar signs everywhere.
yeah, okay.
Written by
I remember my brother and I used to make Dungeons and Dragons comics all the time, where we would get girlfriends in our Dungeons and Dragons comics. Our characters were clearly us,
Yeah, clearly.
And I remember.
I love that that's the least believable element in this fantasy story.
Right, the girlfriend
Yeah, dude, it absolutely is. And we would always draw ourselves exactly the same, super buff elves with giant bangs, like sweeping, like anime style bangs that went like 3 feet this way.
Hell yeah.
I don't know. Have you guys ever seen the movie Unico? It's an old anime about a unicorn who travels around helping people.
Oh, no, I think I have heard of it.
Well, anyway, there's a magician in that whose bangs did that, and my brother and I thought it was like the fucking coolest shit ever. So we would always draw ourselves like that, but like super buff and dual yielding swords to go. And I remember one Christmas recently we found one of his where like he was like it starts I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it was almost a year ago. And he goes, this is how I could tell I was young as shit when I wrote this, was because I thought a year was like the longest time I could possibly conceive of. And then there's like page after page of it where they like are looking for this dungeon and stuff. And then literally as soon as my brother goes on a date with some elf girl in town and she kisses him, he just stopped drawing it. Like there was just no point in finishing the story after that. He gotten what he wanted out of that fucking scenario. Like everything else was just set dressing for him getting to kiss a girl, and then it literally, she's like, oh, okay, hero, make sure you don't get killed in the dungeon. And she kisses him and he's like, wow. And then that's the end of the fucking thing. There's nothing else.
On to the next story.
Middle of the page. It stops in the middle of the page.
Andrew, I have to say, for fans that tune in late and see you with just the big black handle of your workout equipment, they're going to have questions.
Come on, man. There's no veins.
Especially
on this
because
bad boy.
you keep gripping it like a storyteller by the fireside, like
Right.
Stay a while and listen.
Exactly.
And cupping the balls.
When Diablo first brought his big black dick to Tristram. The balls are super heavy on this bad boy, though. Look at this.
It's like a uniball.
Yeah.
It is a uniball. I don't think anyone's tuning in late. I don't know. I don't know if there's messages. I don't know. I love it on podcasts where people are like, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Like anyone's going to stop downloading this podcast, then go click on another podcast and then download it and listen to it. In the meantime, but yeah, I got to get going soon. I just wanted to ask you guys one thing. What did you want to say first? Did you guys see something burning? Did you guys see season 3 of Castlevania on Netflix.
I still haven't seen season 1. I'm the worst.
Dude, season 3 is the horniest shit I have ever seen. I cannot believe. I could tell they were just like, we are sick of this shit. We waited 2 seasons of drawing them fighting eyeballs and bullshit like that. It's time for everyone on this show to fuck nasty as shit. And it is amazing. They've got a femdom. They've got a femdom vampire chick who like turns a human into her pet, which is real good. Real fucking good.
So John
Real
Harker
good.
style.
And she does it. She fucks with his head too in a way where you're like, oh man, this is exactly the kind of abusive shit that I want to think about. And then
this
Alucard,
is how I want to be treated.
Yeah.
Alucard ends up having sex with 2, a dude and a chick assassin at the same time, and I was like, I can't believe they're doing this shit. This shit is out of control. Like, people must have been like, you are not prepared to see Alucard take it up the butt while a chick sits on his face. You're like, what am I watching? A cartoon? Castlevania? This is my Castlevania from Nintendo. This shit got crazy, dude. This shit got so crazy.
I don't remember playing this part.
I wonder if they're like rebelling against Nintendo. You know, they're like, they're not even fucking watching anymore. Let's just do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah, right. Just a test to see if they're still there.
Yeah.
Well, when the male assassin enters his asshole, he does go, now you're playing with power.
A wop a loo bop a lot bam.
A good booty. Dude, that's amazing. Dude, I recommend it just for how all these hot ass scenes, man. The build up too with that femdom vampire is just unbelievable, man. I couldn't get over it. I was like, oh, she's breaking him down mentally by being nice to him in a situation where he can't get out of. It's so crazy. I loved it. I highly recommend it. And it's just a cool cartoon. If you like Castlevania at all, or like vampire stuff at all, you would like it, you know.
Or butt fucking.
I mean, for that one thing.
You
I mean,
like
it's not
any
in
of
there
those
all
3
the time.
things?
It's not in it all the time.
This series checks a lot of boxes.
Dude, I'm telling you, I hope they follow this thread of like, we're gonna make it work like crazier than Game of Thrones, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's a good idea, man. People need that cartoon nudity, dude. Like, they need it in their lives right now.
That's what's missing right now. Is cartoon nudity.
It's great. You never think to yourself, oh man, these people should get into a shelter, or like, you know. You never have those bad thoughts
right now. Yeah, exactly.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, that's all I got. What about you guys?
Yeah. For a cartoon fucking, man, I haven't really. I'm a little bit ashamed to say I haven't seen enough cartoon fucking in my life to be an expert on it. You know,
it's hard to find, bro.
Heavy Metal was like the last good one that I watched. You know,
I mean,
and that wasn't even that good.
I think I would prefer to watch cartoon fucking. Maybe it's a girl thing, but I would prefer to watch cartoon fucking. But I think it's also because you start on cartoon fucking. Like I was definitely watching cartoon fucking and feeling like I was getting away with something before I watched like legitimate porn and like actually went like, okay, I'm going to abuse myself now. You know? Whereas like you could watch cartoon fucking and kind of be like, all right, okay.
Yeah.
You know?
This is perfectly fine.
Exactly right.
There's nothing untoward happening here.
Yeah, but people get madder about that. People get madder about cartoon fucking than they do about regular fucking, you know?
Yeah.
They're cartoons. There's that idea of them being sacred or almost even like non-anatomically correct, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's hard to find good stuff. I hope there's more. Because what was the name of that heavy metal series with that we all watched? Robot,
Oh yeah.
Love, Robots.
Love, Death, and Robots, I think.
Yeah, that had it in there, and it's like I always think to myself, oh, thank God,
Yeah,
when
that
like
show was great. That was really well done.
it has been very rare that I've seen a mainstream cartoon that had that in there that wasn't also good, you know?
That is true.
So it's a official Andrew seal of quality on cartoon nudity. Well, I gotta go to bed, you guys. What about y'all?
All right. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
All right. Have a good night, you guys.
You too.
Yeah, and thanks for listening to Power Pals,
The
folks.
Contagion edition.
Yeah, man. We'll do another one of these again soon.
Sounds good. Have a
Cool.
good night, everybody.
Good night.
All right, peace out, y'all.